So yeah, as I say, this section, well, the speaking section in general, it's complicated for most test takers, right? Because when we are learning English as English learners, we always, let's say, emphasize on the difficulty of speaking English, right? Because of course, as we are, all of us are from South America or Central America, we are normally used to speaking Spanish. In Spanish, in my opinion, is a way less gestural language. That is to say, you don't move your mouth very much, and you don't, let's say, express each word with your face and with your face expressions. But it's a very neutral and very static language. But the English language is totally different, right? Now, of course, I know that all of you have a fantastic level in English. Therefore, that is not my preoccupation. It's not my worry. But what I'm going to be, of course, trying to look for in this case is to prepare you for understanding the structure of this section. And of course, especially in this task number 1, that is going to be our topic for the entire week. And of course, trust me that with a lot of practice, we're going to polish this until the point that you respond perfectly every single time. Okay, so let us start in with our fantastic presentation that I have designed for you, and let us go, okay, with our topic for today's class. All right, here I am. Good. Let me share this, and here we are. Okay. Great. So as I was saying, speaking section, and well, I know that, as I say, all of you have fantastic language, have fantastic use of the English language, and well, you're certainly not going to find this to be very difficult, right? And well, today we're going to discuss, by the way, for those of you who are from the all group, we're just going to discuss the first task. So all these things are applicable to you as well, right? Don't worry about that. Well, so let us discuss very rapidly anyways, the general aspects for those of you who have already listened about this, who are from the all group. Don't worry, as I say, we're going to discuss this week just the first task, that is the one you didn't listen. And for the new group, of course, all of this is new to you. Fantastic, as I say, all these modules are separated, so everything is new to everyone. So some general aspects for you to have them very clear on mind, okay? So let us discuss this. What can I tell you about the speaking section in general? What I can tell you about the speaking section is that it's designed to measure your ability to speak English effectively in academic settings. It is composed of 4 different tasks that resemble real-life situations you might encounter both in and outside of a classroom. Now, let me be very clear when I say this. When I say that the speaking section is divided into 4 different tasks, the only thing that I'm trying to mean when I say 4 different tasks is to say that this section is divided into 4 different questions. That's what I mean by the word task. That maybe is a very difficult word to interpret. Well, everything depends in the context, right, in which this word is placed. And in this case, I can tell you that when I say the speaking section have 4 different tasks, the only thing I'm trying to say is that the speaking section has 4 different questions you have to respond. How? Of course, speaking, right? Delivering a very short talk, speech, etc. So, apart from that, the fact that you have numerically speaking 4 different questions in the speaking section to respond, you merely have 2 types of questions. Think about it for a second. Numerically, you have 4 tasks, 4 questions, but you only have 2 types of questions, okay? Now, let us discuss briefly what is the first type of question. The first type of question is called independent speaking task. And this one, dear students, is the only one that allows you to offer your opinion. It basically asks you to do that as such. It is a question, a type of question that asks you to offer your opinion on a particular subject and then to defend and to support your own opinion. Now, this type of question, as I say, the first type of question, you are only going to find it in the first question in the section. That is to say, as I told you, out of the 4 questions you have, the first one will always be an independent type of question. It will always be a question asking for your opinion and asking for defending your opinion afterwards, okay? Now, from the second until the 4th question of the speaking section, as I told you, we have 4 questions, right? So from the second until the 4th question, we're going to have the second type of question. all of them belong and pertain to the fourth type of question. That, as I say, or excuse me, to the second type of question that is called integrated speaking question. I repeat, it's called integrated speaking questions. Now, this type of question basically requires you to combine your English language skills just as you would do it in and out of a classroom. But basically, in simpler words, what this type of question asks you to do is to summarize material that ETS gives you. But we are going to talk about that on other occasion, okay? But as I say, throughout this week, we're going to be focusing on the first type of question that, as I mentioned, is always the first question you're going to receive, and is called independent speaking task, right? That is going to be our focus and emphasis throughout this week. We're going to have an overview of the section. We're going to learn how to approach it, the structures, patterns, tips, and we're also going to practice a lot, okay? Fantastic. So, third point I want to have very clear with you. Throughout the entire section, dear students, you'll be required to write down some notes in order to organize and plan your responses. Now, I'm very much satisfied and content with knowing that both of you, or well, both of the groups that are here, and also, of course, all of you, dear students, have already listened to exposition and excursus on the listening section, meaning that you are already capable of writing very efficient and succinct notes. And well, all those things, what I want to ask for you, or what I want to ask out of you or from you very kindly, is that you please apply all those recommendations here in this part of the exam as well. Because although this skill of taking notes is important for the entire exam, you're going to trust me here when I tell you that in the speaking section, your ability to take notes is also essential. So please, all the things that we have learned in taking efficient notes, all the tips that I gave you, for example, when I told you, right, abbreviating words or writing out information words or all the things we discussed before in last week's class, please try to apply them as well here, okay? It's of crucial importance, trust me, to take very efficient notes for elaborating your structures, for elaborating your responses. You're going to find out why is this skill particularly important in this part, okay? But it's important for you to apply it. Well, there we are. So those are the general aspects and points I can discuss about the speaking section. And before you make your questions, please let me talk to you about this part as well. That is very important to know how to manage your headphones. And this is a subtitle, as you can see here in my last slide. I'm going to be discussing how to manage the headphones. So for this section, dear students, your best allies are going to be the headphones. And now, of course, you are already aware of these headphones because I told you last week that these headphones are the ones you use when you are in the listening section and in any other part of the exam that requires you to listen to audio recordings, right? Now, as I can show you here, these are the type of headphones you're going to receive if you are going to take the IBT version, that as we discussed as well last week in our introductory class with the new group, and as we discussed in our introductory class with you guys, is that this type of headphones, as I'm showing you right now, are the ones that you're going to receive in the test center you're going to go to if you are planning to take the IBT version, because we said that the IBT version consists in you registering yourself for the exam and going to a physical institution in order to take this exam in person, right? And when you go to this place, it's basically you arrive there, they welcome you, they say, thank you very much for having chosen this institute, this university, etc. And they take you within a computation room where they are, of course, going to provide you with a computer, with a keyboard, with a mouse, with these type of headphones. That is, of course, the point that I wanted to arrive to. As you can see, these are the headphones you're going to receive. No matter where you live, these are always a generic type of headphones ETS uses in all its test centers, okay? So please have this in mind. These are the headphones you're going to receive, okay? Now, as I say, these headphones are going to be your best allies. The ones you're going to receive will be the traditional headphones with a microphone included, all right? So first thing to make sure when you begin this section is to put them on correctly and to get the microphone near your mouth with the due space for you to speak. As you can see, dear students, the special characteristic of these headphones is that, well, they have a microphone incorporated to the structure. Therefore, this is the microphone that is going to record your responses. It's through this microphone that your responses will be recorded and afterwards sent to a reviewer for him to give you a score and to evaluate your performance. Now, this microphone, dear students, as you can see, is attached to the headphones. So when you put them on, you have to make sure that this microphone is, of course, directed to your mouth. That is to say, it's pointing out to your mouth, and make sure as well that it has a distance from your mouth of approximately 3 to 5 centimeters. Because when you have it too attached to your mouth, dear students, you're going to have complications of two types specifically. First of all, if you have this microphone too attached to your mouth, what's going to happen is that we normally make some noises, right, with our mouth, like things like that. And if we have the microphone too attached to our lips, what's going to happen is that those noises are going to be recorded. And of course, you don't want that in your recording, because remember, as I told you, the speaking section is one of those parts in the exam where your responses are not evaluated through artificial intelligence. An actual professional and human being is going to listen to your responses, and he is going to score you. He is going to evaluate you and give, of course, a punctuation corresponding to you. And you want to make sure that you are offering this reviewer a very clear recording without anything that could annoy him, right? Because if you are annoying your reviewer with these noises, that could be, that could be terrible for you. That could be dramatically, disadvantageous, because you are trying this reviewer to somehow create empathy with you and to understand your responses as clearly as possible. Therefore, please, as I say, always avoid having this headphone too attached to your lips. And also, secondly, second thing you want to avoid here is that, of course, if you have the microphone too nearby your mouth, you're going to be super uncomfortable when speaking. Maybe you touch the microphone with your mouth, and that is going to make you very uncomfortable. Trust me. So please, always a distance of 3 to 5 centimeters is fine for you to speak clearly and without any noise. And always, by the way, speak loudly, all right? You have to speak aloud. This is a section that requires you to speak as clearly as possible, and that implies speaking loudly, okay? So speak loudly with a very consistent voice, not very soft, okay, or not very low, because if you have a very low volume, what's going to happen? You're not going to be audible, okay? So please speak loudly. And don't worry, because when you start a section, the computer itself tells you to adjust the microphone, in the sense that it reminds you, okay, adjust the microphone, speak, because they are going to test if the microphone works, if the headphones are working. So they are going to make a test, not a test, excuse me. They are going to make, some sounds proof, or some sounds testing, and therefore you're going to be able to, identify what volume it is okay for you to speak in this responses and section, okay? But as I say, all of that is going to be done by the computer automatically. The computer, when you start the section, your students, the speaking section, it gives you all the instructions. It gives you the order: put your headphones on, have the microphone nearby your mouth, as I am telling you, and also it, as I say, tests your volume. It tells you, please, could you speak? And you speak something, I don't know, you talked about your life, and the computer detects that, because this microphone is very sensible, and it detects your sound, and it says, okay, you are speaking in a good volume. And if you're speaking too loudly, it tells you, okay, speak loudly, because we're not going to be able to understand you. So you speak loudly, and the computer identifies that, and it says, okay, well, you can now proceed, and you continue with the section, okay? Very good. So, second thing, the headphones will additionally be adaptable to your head size, dear students. So make sure to adjust them in a manner proper for you to have them near your mouth but firm on your head. As you can see here, dear students, on the laterals of your headphones, you're going to have some mechanisms for you to move and, of course, to adjust these headphones size in order to match your head size, okay? So my recommendation here is try to have these headphones very firm on your head, because if you have them very flexible, very, unstable, what's going to happen is that later in your response, you're going to scratch your ear, you're going to scratch your head, and that is going to provoke what? It's going to provoke that your headphones are going to fall down to earth. And of course, you don't want that. It's going to perturb your recording, it's going to deconcentrate you, it's going to annoy you. You don't want that happening. And also, if it doesn't fall down, and if you make a sudden move or something, it's going to, as I say, adjust from your size, and from your head size, excuse me, and that is also going to provoke disturbances in your responses. So please avoid having this very unstable, as I say, but adjust the size to have it firm on your head. It must be very firm on your head so that any move affects you negatively, okay? Very important. So please try to fulfill this recommendation because it can save you and prevent you from many troubles and problematic situations later, okay? Very good. Third recommendation. As we continue with the pandemic, dear students, it is very plausible that test centers, okay, and this only applies for people who are taking the IBT version, by the way, are still going to require you to wear a mask even for this section. If you're taking the home IBT version, of course, you don't have to wear a mask because you are at home, right? You are in your room, etc., so there's no danger. But if you're going to take the IBT version and you're going to go to your test center in order to take the exam, they are going to require you to wear a mask during the entire exam, your students. During the entire exam, you are required to wear a mask during the entire exam. And the speaking section is not an exception. You also have to wear your mask while you are speaking loudly to have your responses recorded. I know it's not a good thing. It's obviously uncomfortable and it's obviously something that you wouldn't like to be dealing with, but that's how it works. This is actually something that has been implemented since 2020 when the pandemic started. So the recommendation here is make sure that the mask you wear on that day is comfortable for you to move your mouth and speak. Maybe when you take this exam, if you're going to take it next year, I hope that the pandemic has ended being a global issue. Therefore, maybe at that time, ETS is going to stop asking this measure for its test takers. If they don't, or if the pandemic, I don't know, flourishes once again or something worse, sadly, you're still going to have to wear a mask, okay? All those things, all those measures, you're going to be notified about through your Gmail, because when you register for the exam, if there is any modification in the policies or if there is any modification with your test center or something like that, ETS always tells you and notifies you about everything in your email, okay? So please, dear students, check out your email very constantly when you register yourself for the TOEFL exam. When you register, ETS constantly sends you messages telling you what to do, how is it going to be on the exam, telling you new, as I say, new information, new modifications on the policies. You'll have to check it out, okay? You're gonna have to check it out. So, but my recommendation here was, make sure that the mask you wear on that day, if you're gonna wear a mask, as I say, for the IBT version, is comfortable for you to move your mouth and speak. Let me tell you about my experience. It happened that the first time I took the TOEFL exam was in 2020, as I told you. So I was part of the first generation. I was part of the first group who had to deal with this policy of having masks on. So on that day, I remember first time I took the exam, I wore a mask that was basically super attached to my mouth. It was one of these surgery masks, like the ones that surgeons use, right, when they are operating somebody and stuff like that. So I found that mask personally to be a disgrace in the sense that it was very difficult for me to speak. I always was touching the mask with my mouth. I didn't enjoy the experience, okay? Now, of course, I tried to learn from my errors, from my mistakes. Next year, 2021, when I took the exam once again, I used a different type of mask. I used this triangular masks, like, I don't know, like as if they were noses, right? Like this mask layer like this, as I say, this triangular form on the top. And I found this mask to be way better because, as I say, given that it has this separation between your mouth and the top of the mask itself, I was able to move my mouth very smoothly, comfortably, as I would do if I weren't using masks, right? So as I say, it was a better idea for me, but nonetheless, this is a totally subjective matter. If you are not very comfortable with these triangular masks, you can just use a different type of mask. As I say, the surgery one, the one that is attached to your lips. But if you feel comfortable with the one that I'm using, it's fine. And also, this, I'm going to, yeah, I saw Crisbel has a question. Don't worry, Crisbel, I'm going to give you a time. Just give me a second. It also happens that the only prohibition here, the only type of mask you can now wear is this crazy masks that people were using at the beginning of the pandemic. You remember when they were using these masks that were for nuclear explosions or something like that? I mean, those masks are not allowed in your test room, but normal masks, like the ones that were previously done for clinical purposes, right? Because all these masks were not done for the pandemic, right? All of them were designed for clinical purposes. You can wear them, okay? But you cannot wear these crazy masks. If you have any other type of mask that it is also surgery purposes, you can use it. But as I say, you have to choose the one that somehow adapts yourself to you and suits you better. Everything depends on your own preferences and comfort. Okay, fantastic. So Crisbel had a question. Please, dear Crisbel, go on. Go ahead with your question.
You show us the best mask for us, please. You said that we can buy many types of
Yes.
masks. So if you can show us, we
Yes.
will be pleasure.
Okay.
Another
Yeah.
question was about the time that we are going to speak in this part or section.
Okay.
So, how much time are we going to have in order to finish the four tasks, as you said,
Oh,
or
okay.
are we going to have like 5 minutes for the first section, or
Mhm.
or how it's going to work?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Crisbel. Very good questions. So responding to the second one first, overall for the entire speaking section, you have 20 minutes. You're going to finalize and perform on the speaking section in a maximum of 20 minutes. That's the overall duration. Now, per task, we're going to discuss it today and tomorrow. And of course, in the following weeks, we're going to discuss how much specific time you have for each part. But as you said, well, for responding the questions, you never have more than 1 minute for responding the questions. Now, for receiving the question and of course reading the question and listening to the question, you have more time. But for responding the questions, you never have more than 1 minute. The maximum is always 1 minute for responding each question. But as I say, we're going to get a very profound discussion on that tomorrow and in the following weeks. So with regard to the timing, you don't have to worry. But overall, I can say that you have 20 minutes to respond the entire section, that is to say the 4 questions as you said. And per question, for responding it, you have a maximum of 1 minute per question, okay? And well, actually for the first question, it's actually 40 seconds instead of 1 minute. But for the second, the third, and the fourth question, you have 1 minute to respond, as we're going to be seeing in the following weeks. But for the first question, for the first type of question, it's always 45 seconds to speak. And trust me, we're going to discuss that. And with regard to the mask thing, well, let me show you the one that I used. You're actually right. Well, when I used, I think it's called KM. Well, at least in my country, it's called KM mask. I'm not sure. I'm gonna see. Yeah, these ones. I mean, I use this type of mask. The ones that, as I say, have a triangular form, like this, right? This type of mask. I use this one. Now, as I say, this is a completely subjective matter. Some people dislike these masks very much. I have friends that say, how can you use that type of mask? Well, as I say, it's a subjective thing. But I use this one and I liked it because, as you can see, because it has this triangular form, it gives you separation, right? A very wide separation from your mouth and to the top. And that allowed me to speak comfortably. But other people prefer like the normal ones, like I guess it's clinical mask. Yeah, like this one. Like people prefer this one as well. And personally, I do not like them because they are super attached to my mouth and I was not able to speak very comfortably. But as I say, everything depends on your own preferences. If you find this to be a very comfortable mask, wear it. The best thing you can do is to test it. That is to say, wear a mask. And if you have a friend who has a microphone like this one, I don't know, borrow it for a while and try to practice by yourself. But everything depends on how comfortable you feel. So this is what I could tell you. But I use this one, the other one, the KN one, and I found it to be better. But as I say, many people don't like it, and I respect it. It's a subjective thing. And well, it depends on you. Okay, is that fine, dear Crisbel?
Yes, teacher, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you very much. Well, there you are. Fantastic. We can move on then. So let's continue. Here we are. Here. All right. So let's go with a very important thing I want to share with you. All right. So please listen to this. Okay. So I want to talk about here. Oh, no, there was something else I wanted to say. Fourth thing here, until or before we move on to that part. You are not going to be allowed to have a water bottle with you in your test room, dear students. Make sure to drink enough water to hydrate your throat appropriately. As I told you, this section, the speaking section, comes immediately after the 10 minutes break you have. And during those 10 minutes, that is the only break you have during the entire exam, at that time, you can drink water, you can eat, you can do whatever you want, you can go to the bathroom, but at that time, you have this 10 minutes break. Before that, you cannot do anything apart from doing the exam. If they see you drinking water, eating something, or reading something that has no relationship with the exam, you are banned. After the 10 minutes break, the same. In the speaking section, you cannot drink or eat nor do anything else apart from performing on the exam. This applies for you if you are taking the IBT version or the home IBT version. Not even at home, they allow you to have your water bottle and to drink as you take the exam. You are not allowed to do so. The only moment in which you can, as I say, drink water, eat something, read if you want, I don't know, walk or go to the bathroom is in this 10 minutes break before the speaking section starts, okay? So please, during this 10 minutes break, try to drink water, hydrate your throat, because imagine that your throat is super dry on the speaking section, is going to be a mess, right? Because for speaking, we need to have our throats very much hydrated. And in order to do so, please drink water, eat something if you want, but during that time, because before that or after that, as I say, you're not allowed to do anything else apart from performing on the exam, okay? Very good. All right, so here I want to stop for a while. Do you have any question, dear students, about the general aspects we have discussed on the speaking section or something with regard to these tips that I have shared with you? Please tell me, I'm going to be delighted to help you. Any question with regard to this? Questions? Lucia, Crisbel, Juan, Alexander, Diana, Santiago, Paula, questions? Okay. No questions then, I think. Fantastic. So let me continue then with this part. All right, so I have a very interesting hack that I want to share with you tonight. And this is going to apply for those of you who are going to take the IBT version, okay? And for those of you who are going to take the home IBT version, it doesn't apply very much, but listen to it anyways, because at some point in your life, at some point, you're going to have to take the IBT version because this home IBT version was designed because of the pandemic. And maybe when the pandemic finishes, ETS is going to take it out. I'm not sure, who knows? There are rumors, but we don't know, right? But at some point, you're going to take the IBT version, trust me. So listen to this. Many people dislike the IBT version and people avoid taking this version because they know that in this version, right, you have to go to a test center in order to take the exam in person. And when you are welcomed by the staff members and introduced within your computation room, in that same room, more people are going to take the exam with you. Normally, 10, 12 people always take the exam on the same date and at the same location. Therefore, you're going to share your room with approximately 10 to 12 people, okay? Or it can be more than that as well. So, as I mentioned, when you are introduced within your computation room, you're going to sit down, you're going to sit down. They're going to offer you your computer. They're going to say, okay, this is going to be your computer. Here you have your headphones. Here you have your microphone. Here you have your mouse. Here you have your everything, right? And besides you, maybe on your right side, there's going to be another person, another test taker with his or her own computer, right? On your left, another person with her own computer. In front of you, another person with another computer, and behind you, another person. Now, of course, you don't have to get in touch with these people. You don't have to talk to them, right? Because if you do, they are going to consider you're cheating or something. You are not allowed to speak with these test takers. Now, the thing is that you are going to share the room with them. And by the way, here's something very important. Maybe you were not aware of this. All questions, all passages, everything in the exam, all the material in the exam is exactly the same for all test takers in the room. That is to say, my question, the first question I'm going to receive in the speaking section is going to be the same one the person on my right side is receiving, and the person who is beside me, and the person who is in front of me and on my left. Same questions, same materials, same passages, always the same for everyone in your test room. Maybe people who are taking your exam, or the exam, excuse me, on the same date than you, but they have decided to go to another test center, are going to receive another material. I don't know. But in your room, if you're going to take the IVT version, it's going to be the same material, okay? The same material. Now, as I say, you have to share this room with more people, right? With another test takers. Now, when this happens, when you come to the speaking section, normally, dear students, all the test takers in the room speak at the same time. Let me repeat that. Normally, okay, normally, all test takers speak at the same time. And as I told you, you have to speak loudly in this section, right? Because you want to have your recording very well, very clear, and very succinct for your reviewer. Now, if you are doing that, well, of course, know that the people who are around you are also going to do the same. They are going to speak as loud as they can. Of course, not screaming, but they are going to speak very loudly. Now, all of that is going to create a lot of noise. You are going to listen, okay, because that normally happens. You're going to listen to other people speaking as you speak, because as I say, normally everybody speaks at the same time. Normally everybody speaks and starts this section at the same time. So people on your left, on your right are going to be speaking on the same time, in front of you at the same time, and etc. So for many people, of course, this is annoying. And certainly it is, because when we are speaking, we don't want to have that chaotic situation in which everybody is also speaking, because it's difficult to concentrate, right? And well, this is one of the difficulties of a TOEFL exam. We have to recognize it. Now, is there any way to avoid that, to avoid that problem of having to concentrate yourself and to respond your questions without listening to other people? I don't think there is a total solution, like a transcendental solution. But let me offer you as an strategy, as I say, a hack that I have discovered myself through my experience that can somehow soften that problem, that can soften it a little bit, okay? So let us comment on this. So as I told you, the speaking section, dear students, is the section that comes right after your break, right? The 10 minutes break. And now, this break, the 10 minutes break, the 10 minutes break comes right after you have finalized with the listening section, right? Because when you start the exam, you go with the reading, then comes the listening, and then when you finalize the listening, on your screen is going to appear a message that says, okay, you have 10 minutes for a break, go out. So when you see that on your screen, you have to stand up and you have to go out, because people from ETS are going to take everybody out of the room. Everybody goes out to this 10 minutes break at the same time, okay? So when people go out, dear students, to the 10 minutes break, it happens that this 10 minutes break is totally up to you, in the sense that you are the one who is going to administer your own time. You don't have to use the entireness of this 10 minutes. You can actually merely use 10 for 3 minutes if you want, or 5 minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes. It's okay. You can use them. You don't have to use the entireness of the time they give you. You don't have to stay out of the room for 10 minutes. No, not necessarily. Now, let me tell you, what most people do, what most test takers do, 80% of test takers, they don't use the entire 10 minutes. Actually, people normally take merely 3, as I told you, 4, 5 minutes as a break. They go to the bathroom very rapidly, they wash their face, they drink a little bit of water, they eat something they have brought it with themselves, right? Maybe they left it in their school bags that people from ETH are washing out, by the way. You don't have to worry about that, because they are going to be caring about your stuff that you have brought with you and that you have left out of your room. Maybe if you brought a sandwich in your school bag, you can go and eat it. It's fine. These 10 minutes, as I say, these 10 minutes are for you to do everything. You can do everything. Okay? Now, as I say, people don't normally use the entireness of this 10 minutes. They normally use 3, 4, 5. They go to the bathroom rapidly, they drink water, and they come back. I'm not sure why people do that. I have to admit it. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because they are eager to finalize the exam. Maybe it's because they are anxious. Who knows? But the point is that most test takers do this. And I have confirmed this with other people, apart from my experience on the exam. As of course, excuse me, as I have a lot of students who have taken this exam already, they always send me a message and say, yeah, what you told me was right, that people normally stay out of the room for 5 minutes as a maximum, but they never use the entire 10 minutes. That normally happens. Now, this is something that you have to take to your own advantage, okay? Now, let us discuss that later. But now, let us imagine a normal test taker. He goes to the bathroom, he washes his face, he drinks water, etc., and he comes back. And he has merely used 5 minutes, okay, of his time. This is a normal test taker, the average test taker. He enters the room, he sits down again, he watches his screen, and the first thing you see when you come back to the computation room after you have finalized with your break, when you decide to come back voluntarily, you sit down and on your screen, there's going to be a message that says, in order to continue and start the speaking section, press the continue button. And there's going to be a button on your screen that says continue or next. And if you don't press it, dear student, if you don't press that button, dear students, the speaking section is not going to start. I repeat, a message says press the continue or next button in order to start with the speaking section. If you don't press that button that says continue or next, the speaking section will not start. They give you the opportunity to mentalize a little bit, etc., etc. So you start the section when you want. Of course, you cannot be there forever. When the computer notices that you are not pressing the button, and I don't know, I'm not sure how much time it happens until the computer does what I'm about to say. Maybe it's about 3 or 4 minutes. I have never measured it exactly. And I think that there is no exact amount of time because it depends and varies from test center to test center. But normally the computer gives you 3, 4 minutes, or maybe even 5 minutes for you to press the button. And if you don't press the button continue or next, the computer itself takes you to the speaking section automatically. And by the way, without penalty, it doesn't punish you or something. Because if you don't press the button, that is not illegal. It's totally legal. The point is that people, as I say, the normal test taker, the average test taker, he sits down, he sees that on his screen, and he presses it immediately. He presses it. He presses the button immediately, trust me. And they start a section. That is what normal test takers do, what average test takers do. They enter the room, they see this message, and they say, okay, well, it says here, continue. I'm going to press it. They press the button, and they start a section, okay? Now, that is what you are not going to do. So coming back to the beginning, when you go off your 10 minutes break, okay, when you go to your 10 minutes break, what you have to do, dear students, is to be the last person entering the computation room, the last person to come back. In order to do so, use the entireness of your 10 minutes. Don't get anxious. Don't get, I don't know, don't get eager for coming back to your computation room and finalizing the exam. No. Take your time. As I say, use the entire 10 minutes. If you go to the bathroom, if you are drinking water, if you have eaten your food, etc., good. And if you finalize that, and if you still have time, just stay there, breathe a little bit, go and check out your notes. You can do it because you, as I say, if you bring with you a school bag, there are going to be people watching out those things that you have, of course, left with them. And you can go and request, can I get my book? Yeah, they say, okay. And you read your notes in order to remember what we have seen in our classes. You can do it. When your 10 minutes are over, a person from ETS is going to say, okay, dude, come back. Your 10 minutes are over. So you say, okay, yeah, fine. You accompany that person and he is going to introduce you within your computation group. You're probably going to be the last person to enter, and that's fine. Why? Because as I told you, people, normal people, average test takers, when they take the exam, they come back to the computation room as fast as they can, and they press the continue button as fast as they can. Therefore, when you get into your computation room as the last person entering your room, you, dear students, are going to be about to start your section, and the rest of the test takers are going to be in the middle of their section, that is to say, in the middle of their speaking section, or already done with it. Most of them will have already finished it. Some of them will still be performing, yes, but some of them will have already finalized with the speaking section. So what happens? You sit down, right? And you see your computer, and it says, okay, in order to start the speaking section, press the continue button. you don't press it. You wait those 3-4 minutes it gives you. For what? For allowing the rest of test takers, the other people who are taking the exam with you, to continue with their speaking section without you starting. So when the computer automatically takes you to the speaking section because it recognizes that you are not pressing the button, as I say, most of them will have already finalized. Most of them will have already finalized because, as I say, this is a very, very short section, very short, 20 minutes. So most of them, if you take all these precautions that I'm telling you, if you enter as the last person, if you don't press the continue button, but you wait for your computer to get you into the speaking section and start, most of the people will have already finalized their speaking sections, and they will be in their writing sections. So when you start your speaking section, most of the room is going to be silent. Probably there's going to be 1 or 2 people speaking, but that's all. 8 or 7 test takers will have already finalized the speaking section. And that means that you are going to have a silent room for you to speak. And the other ones are going to finalize as well. So you are going to be the only person speaking in your room. That, as you can see, means your students that you are going to be annoying them when you speak and they are writing, but they are not going to annoy you. And therefore, of course, that is a very, very good strategy, right? Yeah, Crisbel, you had a question.
Yes, teacher. I understand that we have to wait for these 10 minutes,
Yes.
but what happen if the testing center is going to tell us that we have to be um, that everybody has to go at the same time?
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
could happen,
Yeah.
or it depends on each one person.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, very good question. Thank you very much, Crisbel. No, it actually never happens. As I say, you administer your time. In every test center around the world, they never ask all test takers to come back in groups. That is to say, okay, the 3 of you come back. If you don't want, doesn't matter, come back. They never say that. As I say, they give you the 10 minutes and you administer as you want. If you want to use them entirely, go. Fantastic. But if you want to use 3-5 minutes, you can come back and you can start a section. As I say, they give you these 10 minutes for you to administer them. You are the only one who decides when you want to come back. Of course, you cannot exceed the 10 minutes, right? As I say, when your 10 minutes are over, somebody comes and tells you, hey, your 10 minutes are over, come back. That is when you have to come back. That is the maximum time. But before that, you can just stay there. But as I say, most of the test takers, before these 10 minutes are over, actually in their minute 5, when they are just in their 5th minute of break, they come back because, as I say, they're eager or anxious to finalize. Okay, but that is never going to happen. That somebody tells you everybody at the same time. It's not going to happen because, as I say, you administer these 10 minutes. Okay, is that fine?
Yes, teacher. But how does the computer recognize us in order to take this speaking section?
Like how does it recognize like your time
Ye-
when you are waiting?
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I imagine that when we come back to the room,
Yes, yes,
we sit down. Yes,
yes,
we are going to sit down to in our place,
yes,
and the computer will share the section of go to the speaking section,
yes,
or or the computer is, I don't know, has the time exactly the 10 minutes to show this part.
mhm.
I don't know.
Well, the 10 minutes are not connected to the time you have before you start a section because these 10 minutes of break are separate from the time you have before starting the section. That's what I told you, right? When you go out, you have 10 minutes for break. Be the last person to enter the computation room. Fine. You enter the room and your 10 minutes for break are over, right? So you sit down. And when you sit down, you have to, of course, click on your computer. And when you click, then the message is going to appear. And when you see the message, you still have another 4 or 5 minutes to stay there without pressing the button. These 5 or 4 minutes of waiting that you have before the computer takes you to the speaking section are separate to the 10 minutes you have for break. The 10 minutes for break is just for break. But when you come back and you sit down and you press a button and the message shows up, when the message shows up, you have additionally 5 minutes, or I don't know, I'm not sure how much is said, because as I say, it varies from test center to test center. But the point is, it is a long time. It is commonly, from what I have experienced and from what my students have told me, it is always 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes as they can measure, right? Because of course they don't have like a clock for measuring, but as I say, these minutes are separate from the 10 minutes you have for break. So when you come back and you sit down and you have your computer and the message appears, you still have 5 or 4 minutes in which you're not going to do anything. You're just going to sit down and wait until the computer takes you to the speaking section, and then you're going to start. Yeah, is that more clear, dear Crisbel?
Yes, teach. And so we are going to have more time over 10 minutes, right?
Yes, exactly. See, at the end, yeah, at the end, you're going to have more time. You're right.
Okay.
At the end, yes. Okay, my pleasure. Very good. All right, fantastic. So, and here, so the last thing I wanted to tell you is that here, for example, Crisbel says, yeah, you have this extra minutes, right? When you are about to press the start button, but as I say, I recommend you not to press it, but to wait until the computer takes you to the speaking section. What I recommend you to do actually in that waiting period you have of who knows how much, but could be 3, 4, or 5 minutes, is instead of doing nothing, listen to what the test takers say. Because remember that I told you, in this modality, in the IBT version, all people in the room share the same questions, the same material. So what you can do is to listen to what they say, to see if you can grasp a question and to prepare it in those minutes you have before starting the section with your notes. Because as I told you, when you enter the room, you can take notes at any time, right? You have your paper, you have your pencils that they have given you. So, for example, let me tell you what it happened to me last time I took it. Last year, I took the exam with 3 friends, let's say. Well, they were scholars because we received a scholarship from the American Embassy. And the embassy basically paid for us to take the exam. That is to say, we took the exam for free because the embassy paid for us. So these scholars that were with me, my fellow scholars, I knew them. We practiced together. They were my friends. So when they entered the room, of course, I didn't tell them anything of this, right? I didn't share with them the secrets. So they entered first. And when I was the last person to enter the room, I sat down on my computer and I didn't press the continue button. So I managed to listen to my fellow scholars' responses. And I remember that there was, and of course, all of them were fantastic at English, right? Because they were scholars from the American Embassy. So I listened to one of my friends who had told me before we entered the exam, he had a vacation to LA last year. And I listened to him in his response, speaking about that same travel he had talked to me about. He was talking about his last vacation to LA, California. And I listened to him and I said, okay, he is talking about his last travel to LA. So what could the question be about? And I recognized, okay, this must be the first question because the first question is always personal, as we're going to discuss tomorrow. So I said, okay, if the question is about vacations because he was talking about his vacation, what could this question be about? So I started to think. I took my paper, I took my pencil, and I started to write down on my on my paper, what could the question be and what would my answers be depending on the question. So it happened that when the computer, after my time was over, right, and the computer took me to the speaking section, as I say, without penalty, I just, I turned out to be right. The question that I thought would be the one for me was exactly the question I was expecting. It was a question about something like, where was your last vacation and how was it, or something like that. I don't remember. It was about something like people liked to share family vacations. How was your last vacation? I don't know. I don't remember. But the point is that it was about vacations. So because I had prepared my response before, I was able to respond to that question very smoothly, very calmly, easily, because I had planned my response with a long time. So as I say, dear students, all these things are legal. All these things have no penalty because they are legal. The only thing is that we are being intelligent and we are using the system that ETS has in our favor. and that's totally fine. Okay, so please, if you are able to apply these recommendations, do that. Of course, you're not going to listen to your friends, maybe, because you're going to take the exam with known people, but listen to what other test takers speak. If you notice a question that is likely going to appear to you, fantastic. Listen to it, take your paper, and start thinking about your possible responses. Okay, that is it. Any question, dear students, with regard to this method, to this quick hack that I have shared with you, please tell me. Questions, commentaries? Lucia, Crisbel, Juan, Alexander, Diana, Santiago, Paula, questions about this method?
No question, teacher.
Okay, thank you very much, Diana. Fantastic. What about the rest of you guys? No questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Juan. Very good. There you are.
Teacher,
Yes, Crisbel.
are we going to practice this section?
Yeah, certainly. We're going to practice tomorrow and Wednesday and also Friday. But today, no, of course, but we're going to practice throughout all this entire week. We're going to practice.
Okay, teacher. Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Okay, any other question, dear students? Any other thing that we could discuss here? No? Right. Very good. Okay, so we're going to stop our class here tonight. And as I told you, we have basically outlined all the general things that you needed to know for the speaking section. And tomorrow we're going to speak about this, about the first task of the speaking section. And we're going to discuss the theoretical aspect. It's super short because it's super easy to understand as well. And then we're just going to practice. And also throughout the week, we're just going to practice and practice and practice for this section. You're going to have a lot of practice, trust me. And you're going to find it super fruitful and, of course, advantageous for your preparation, okay? So, well, let me take your assistance before you go. And please, your students, help me with your kind responses to our traditional poll, okay? You know that I appreciate your responses very much. So please help me with that, and let us take your assistance. If you have any question, commentary, please feel free to express it as well, okay? Let's go here. And let's see what we got. Okay, let's hear present Yasmin Azucena. Okay, what about Reyes André? Okay, Paula Andrea.
Present.
Thank you very much, dear Paula. Fantastic. What about Andrea Mercedes? Alexander David.
Present.
Thank you very much, dear Alexander. What about Intiago Angel? Okay, what about Antesana Mateo? Right, Antesana Sergio.
Present.
Thank you very much. And Sara Neda or Kevin Alcides. Okay, well, okay. And finally, Duran Diana.
Present.
Thank you very much, dear Diana. What about Lucia Adriasola?
Present.
Thank you very much, dear Lucia. What about Daniel Crisbel? Oh, Daniel Crisbel, sorry.
Present, teacher.
Thank you very much, dear Crisbel. What about Juan Pablo Duran?
Present, teacher.
Thank you very much, Juan. There you are. Thank you very much, guys, for your presence. It was a pleasure for me to be with you tonight. And well, we're going to be seeing each other tomorrow in order to continue with these classes. And well, have a wonderful night, okay?
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you very much.
teacher.
See you later. Bye-bye. See you.